All right, so we're going to wrap this week up with Steaks and Takes.
Steakies and takies.
Stockades and Takes. We're going to recap last week, which for me was a piss-poor performance in NFL.
I didn't have a great one, but I did a little bit better than you. One game to be exact.
Let's recap last week, see where we're at with everything, and then we'll jump into every pick for this week, every bet for this week. Yeah, let's jump in. Last week, 2-3 on the main card of UFC Noche, UFC 306.
I also went 2-3 on the main card.
We all had O'Malley winning, beating Merab Dvalishvili, but Merab's won. So shout out to Merab, new bantamweight champion there. You lost on Grasso. You thought Shevchenko was going to lose.
Yes,
I picked Shevchenko, so I got the win there. You lost. Gotcha. Next, Daniel Zellhuber.
Yeah,
Brivovic won that split decision. So, again, Brivovic had a great fight of the night, performance of the night, whatever you want to call it. It was a great showing by both fighters there. And then we went 5-0 in college football, both.
5-0, yes. Every win right, that means.
That was a good one.
Every game right.
We'll take those. That was Kansas State over Arizona. That was Missouri over Boston College. LSU over South Carolina. That was a close one. Nail biter. I was nervous.
I was very nervous. I was pissed.
Yeah. Oregon over Oregon State. And that's
Bama,
all of
Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. Alabama, Wisconsin. I just looked right over it because I still assume Alabama's just going to win. They're not as good. They're still pretty good though.
Yeah.
And then NFL, how did you do in the NFL?
I went 2-3, so not great, but I got Saints right. They dominated the Cowboys. I got Texans over Bears right, which easy.
That sounds like 2 wins to me.
Bucks Lions wrong. Picked the Bucks. Lions won. I picked the Lions. Bucks won.
There you go.
I think everybody in the world picked the 49ers to beat the Vikings. Vikings played a hell of a game. Sam Darnold, shout out.
Sam Darnold's back?
And then the Eagles blew the game against the Falcons. I'm not sure what happened. Between the drop and the poor clock management, Falcons got the win, so I got that one wrong.
Yeah, I picked the Cowboys. They lost to the Saints. I picked the Lions. They lost to the Bucks. I picked the Niners. They lost to the Vikings. I picked the Eagles. They lost to the Falcons. But I picked the Texans over the Bears, so told my mom about it and everything. It was awesome. Brings me to a total cum this week of 9-6.
I also went 9-6.
2-3 on the bets. So I hope you didn't follow all of them. I hope you only followed the 2 I won.
I also went 2-3 on the bets.
Minus almost 4 units for myself. You went down, like 2.5 units.
Thank God I took the Saints with the points. Oh, right. No, I should have just taken the money line.
Money line would have paid better. Yeah. I'm 12-8 on the season. You're 13-7. And then for all the total picks, I'm 32-18 on the season. And you're 34-16. We're down some units, but we started off last season down some units. Christian put up a piping 0-5 at the beginning of last season. So
working our way back. No need to bring up the past.
I finished this past season at plus 40 units, so we'll be fine. We just gotta get in where we fit in. This week, let's talk college football first. What games are we talking?
So college football, we got 4 ranked versus ranked matchups, and then we threw another one in there to give us a 5
feel-good matchup of the week.
Feel-good, yes, and then another 5 NFL games. So a total of 10 we're picking this week with no UFC.
And then 5 bets as always.
But let's start off Friday night. Number 24 Illinois going to number 22 Nebraska. These are 2 teams that aren't usually ranked as of recently, but right now both of them 3-0. Both have promising starts to the season. Nebraska at home is a 7.5-point favorite.
I see. It's crazy.
Nebraska last week, 2 weeks ago dominated Colorado. Mm-hmm. Last week, easy game against Northern Iowa. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Illinois coming off of a nice performance against Central Michigan.
But they got the ranking by upsetting Kansas, right?
They got the ranking by upsetting Kansas the week before, who then lost to UNLV. So how good of a win is that? But
we'll see.
This is going to be, as I said, these are 2 teams that aren't used to being ranked right now. Nebraska, always have a sellout crowd. This is going to be a crazy environment on a Friday night.
Is this a real Big Ten matchup?
This is a real Big Ten. Big Ten's not doing that this year. It was only the Big 12 that had that.
Okay.
And those are all over.
I've gotten so confused already by.
The Big Ten has either 16 or 18 teams. The Big 12 has, I think, 16 maybe.
Okay.
But anyway.
Just wanted to make sure we're in conference.
Big game. I think Nebraska, led by their young freshman quarterback Rioli, I think they have the edge in this. I think they're the more talented team. I got Nebraska rolling in this one.
Yeah, like we said, Illinois upset Kansas. How big of a win is that? Luke Altmaier, the quarterback for Illinois, he scored through the air 6 times. You know, he's been very effective through the air. But Patrick Mahomes' doppelganger, Dylan Raiola, has been channeling his inner Mahomes. He's scored through the air 5 touchdowns, 670 yards. Pretty efficient, 74% almost. I also have Nebraska.
Matt Rule is Nebraska's coach.
Yeah, I know. I watch Barstool a lot, so Will Compton's always talking about Matt Rule. That was who did he coach for? The Panthers?
He coached Baylor, did great at Baylor, went to the Panthers, did horrible. Now it's looking like it's probably not him.
I was going to say, that's got to be a Panthers situational thing, not a Matt Rule thing. Or maybe he's just not cut out for the
somebody,
NFL.
Yeah, it could possibly be that. Somebody put up a sign, and it was Baker Mayfield, former Panthers quarterback, who they cut 2-0. Sam Darnold, former Panthers quarterback, who they cut 2-0. Matt Rule, who they fired 3-0. Panthers 0-2.
I love it. Well, let's ride Nebraska for the win. They have a money line of -350. They're favored. I just looked at the updated spread. It's 8.5 on my
rising.
Thing. So it's rising. Over under 42.5. What do you think about that?
I would go the over in this one.
Over 42.5. Nebraska.
Patrick Mahomes Jr.
Is Nebraska covering that spread? 8.5, 7.5. If it was 7.5,
I think they're covering. Yeah, I think Nebraska wins by about 10 points.
All right.
So let's move on. This is another Big Ten matchup. New Big Ten team, USC, joined the Big Ten this year.
Yes, sir.
Number 11 USC going to number 18 Michigan. USC 2-0 in the season. Last week, 48-0 win over Utah State.
So why do they do Week 3 buys? Is that just because there's so many damn teams? They have to?
Yeah, it's just a weird thing. It's up to the school.
A break as soon as you start
it's up to the school.
Season.
It's not like the NCAA's putting out the schedule.
Oh, okay.
Schools scheduling their own thing.
That's just stupid in my opinion.
So USC 2-0, 5.5-point favorites on the road against Michigan. Michigan, an unimpressive performance against Arkansas State last week. That's coming off on the heels of getting blown out at home by Texas. Michigan, one of the fallest falls, I think.
But Texas isn't a fraud.
No, Texas is good, but you still, if you're Michigan, you're the defending national champs, you get blown out at home.
Yeah, it's not a good look. I'm just trying to add that at least Texas is good.
Texas is good, but I don't think Michigan is that good. And I think USC is a rebounded program. Beat LSU the first week, had a nice win.
Blew out Utah State.
Blew out Utah State, who played Utah pretty close, who we're going to talk about later.
Yep.
But USC, the first Big Ten matchup, I think they go to Michigan, to Ann Arbor, 5.5-point favorites. I think they get the win. I think USC shows that Michigan is the fraud this year.
I agree that Michigan's the fraud. Warren, Michigan's quarterback, he's thrown like 6 interceptions in just 2 games.
They're switching quarterbacks.
Right, but I heard a saying before: if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any.
Yeah, but that's usually if you're playing both of them at the same time. If you're benching one and putting another one, you never know. But still, I
think notorious though. The first start for quarterbacks have to be rough. You're not taking first team snaps. You're not expected to start this early in the season.
You never know. He could come in and be a spark to the offense, but regardless.
They need it.
Yeah, they do need it.
Miller Moss, he's been pretty efficient, but USC rides the ground game, to score most of their points.
That's smart.
I get it. That if you can ride the
ground game, you have a smart quarterback who takes care of the ball.
You eat a bunch of clock. You score on the ground. You're not giving Michigan a bunch of possessions.
USC beat LSU this year. I'm all on the USC train. I hope they do great this year.
Yeah, I also vote USC for the win.
So Trojans winning. Now let's go on to the next one. This is a Big 12 game that counts as a Big 12 game. New Big 12 member, number 12 Utah, goes to
the Utes taking on the Cowboys.
The Utes taking on the Cowboys versus the Indians. Number 14 Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is 2-point dogs at home, plus 110 on the money line, minus 130 for Utah.
Yep.
Utah last week, both teams 3-0. Utah last week, a 38-21 win over Utah State, but it was close for a while. Oklahoma State blew the brakes off of Tulsa. They were up 42-0 in the third quarter, then kind of took the foot off the gas, 45-10 win. Oklahoma State's one of those teams, they're kind of up and down. They were down like 14-0 against Arkansas 2 weeks ago. They came back and won that game. Have a lot of talent, one of the best running backs in the country in Gordon.
Yeah.
They're going to be playing at home, T. Boone Pickens Stadium, which is a cool.
Yeah.
You got a billionaire benefactor.
What about Alan Bowman? I'm sorry. 967 passing yards with 8 touchdowns through the air. Like
Oklahoma State's a high-powered offense.
Rocking right now. They're clicking on offense.
They got a high-powered offense. Utah still, this has been the case for Utah over the past, it feels like 10 years. Cam Rising hurt is his health.
Yeah. So the thing I saw with Utah through their first 3, they're not scoring a whole bunch on the ground, but they're producing yards effectively. So can the D-line of Oklahoma State back that. Utah's favored by 1 going 2 currently.
Going to Oklahoma State. I think Utah, their game plan is going to be to, as you said, alluded to, have possession and don't let this high-powered Oklahoma State offense get going. Because they can pass the ball, as you said. They have one of the best running backs in the country.
Right.
So Utah, they're going to want to hold on to the ball, eat some time. But I think Oklahoma State's offense is going to be the difference in this. I think they're more well-rounded. I think they can score more points in bunches. Yeah. And I think Oklahoma State at home in a close game gets the win over Utah.
I have to agree. Even though Utah hasn't allowed, Utah State, they allowed 21 points. They allowed 3 scores. But nobody has been the test that Oklahoma State is. I agree. I think Oklahoma State's going to win. I think Alan Bowman, being that confident so far through just 3 games through the air, regardless of who they played, is going to show out. Originally, I had Utah, the Utes winning, but I'm switching. I'm going with Oklahoma State
Cowboys,
as the
go
finisher.
Pokes. Now let's move on to the next game. This is where College Game Day is going to be, a new SEC matchup.
Yeah.
First-year SEC team, number 15, 3-0 Oklahoma, hosting number 6 Tennessee, also 3-0. One interesting thing, Tennessee's quarterback, Josh Heupel.
Yep.
Won a Heisman, second in the Heisman, won a national championship at Oklahoma in the year 2000. That was Oklahoma's last title. He was offensive coordinator, had 2 Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks.
Okay.
They ended up firing him. I think like in 2013.
All right.
He took a different road. Now he's the coach of one of the hottest teams in the country, in the Tennessee Volunteers, who this year they haven't played anybody good
yet.
NC State was ranked when they played them. They just blew the brakes off them. They pretty much ruined NC State's season. They beat them so bad. But last week Tennessee beat Kent State 71-0.
That's a good showing.
Oklahoma last week, a 34-19 win over Tulane at home. Tulane's a good, solid ball club, so it's not a bad win. But Tennessee comes in 7.5-point favorites. 7-point favorites on the road at Oklahoma, which is, I read something, it's the first time, I think, since 2014, Oklahoma isn't favored at home.
Damn.
And the first time it's by touchdown or more that they're underdogs since like the year 1998.
Wow. Dylan Sampson for Tennessee, hasn't produced a crazy amount of yards. He only has 357 yards through 45 carries, which in itself is respectable.
In 3 games, it's pretty good.
Right. But he scored 9 times already. It just proves that.
And they got the young quarterback who's balling
they're
right
getting
now.
into the red zone, handing the rock off to Sampson, and he's just scoring nearly every time. They scored 71-0, but they had 2 other games where they also won, not heartily, but it was pretty easy wins for them. Then Oklahoma at home, that's the only advantage you have really there when the team's
barely
that much
beat
better.
Houston 2 weeks ago.
Right.
They looked better against Tulane, but still.
Like you said, Tulane's nothing to really scoff at. They're not ranked or anything, but they are a good program.
They almost beat Kansas State.
Right.
But I think Tennessee's offense and the way they're rolling right now is going to be a little too much for Oklahoma.
700 yards from, is it Lamaliva or Iamaliva?
Yes. His first year starting, he looks like an early Heisman contender. I think Tennessee, much like the Utah-Oklahoma State game, but this one, Tennessee's offense is going to be the one that Oklahoma's just not going to be able to keep up with it. I got Tennessee winning, and I think they cover this 7-point spread.
I agree on Tennessee winning. I agree on the 7-point spread because looking at the 2 offenses, Oklahoma just hasn't shown that they can produce nearly the amount of points compared to the competition. So I agree, Tennessee for the win. Ride them.
All right, let's go. Last college game we're going to cover.
This is the easy one of the week.
Not a ranked first ranked, but it's my favorite team, so we're covering it. UCLA, 1-1 UCLA, going to number 16 LSU. LSU is 24-point favorites against UCLA.
That's crazy.
UCLA last week lost against Indiana. Big Ten game. UCLA, a new Big Ten team, by the way. 42-13. They got blown out by Indiana, who's not that good. LSU somehow escaped with the win over South Carolina last week at South Carolina, 36-33.
Yeah, after they lost their season opener to the USC, right?
Lost to USC.
Which now is looking like a more respectable loss.
Yeah, not a bad. It wasn't bad when they lost. They were ranked.
Right, but you thought they were going to be worse because they were lacking Caleb Williams. They were lacking, people that left. So props to LSU for putting it together the past 2 weeks.
LSU minus 2,500 favorites in this. An incredible. UCLA's just their first-year head coach, Sean Foster. I just don't think they're that good this year. It's going to take a little while to rebuild. They struggle on all sides of the ball, really.
Another
offense
team
and
that had a
defense.
3rd week bye.
Yes, offense and defense. I think this is going to be a game LSU kind of gets their footing. They haven't looked great in any of their 3 games, although they're 2-1. I think LSU rolls in this. I think they get their offense. Well, their offense has been rolling. I think their offense continues. This is going to give their defense some confidence against a team that's not that good. I think LSU rolls. It's going to be tough to get the 24-point spread, but I think it's going to be somewhere near that. Give me the Tigers. Give me the 24 points.
I think that 24 points is a trap, but I think it's a trap in favor of LSU.
I think they know that
they've had
LSU
3 games this season. They lost 27-20. They won 44-30 something, 43-30 or something like that, and they won a close matchup against the Gamecocks 36-33 last week. I think that everybody is going to be riding the UCLA to cover
Plus
that
24, yeah.
because in every game
and
LSU,
UCLA's traveling cross country to Tiger Stadium. UCLA.
in every game LSU allows points. But this is a team that is arguably well worse than any team that LSU's faced this season.
Maybe not Nichols, but LSU kind of didn't have their.
They weren't. Let me not take up for them. You're right. They should have beat the shit out of Nichols when they only
just
won by
weren't
like 20 or
focused.
something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think LSU will win. I think you can take the spread on them because I think it's a trap. I think LSU's high-powered offense, 895 yards and 10 touchdowns from Nussmeier, which is rivaling Bowman. That's the highest stat leader I've seen so far this
Nussmeier's
season.
been on a roll.
Click with that offense. They're not really worried about the run game too much. I mean, they're going to produce yards, but they're not very effective so far.
They were effective last week. They had a nice game.
1 of 3. Yeah.
Huh?
1 of 3 weeks they were effective.
Yeah, they get better as the year goes on,
Yeah,
Alex.
let's let
college
LSU
football.
cover the 24-point spread for the final college football pick.
Yeah, so that was college football. Let's move on to NFL.
And then at the end, we'll just run through all the picks quickly. So, if you missed anything, you got 10 in a row.
5 NFL games.
Yep.
First one is going to be your favorite team.
I picked it for a reason.
The Colts hosting the Chicago Bears. Colts 0-2 taking on the 1-1 Bears.
Yep.
Colts are -120 favorites. -1 spread, which I found surprising. I thought they'd be higher than that.
I think it's because week 1 against the Texans, the Colts performed well better than anybody expected. Anthony Richardson,
2-point loss.
2-point loss. They never really had the lead. It never felt promising or anything. But it was like, oh, I thought they were going to lose.
They're hanging
by a
with the
touchdown.
Texans, who people consider Texans to be like a top 5 NFL team this year.
And then last week they just completely blew it against the Packers, 16-10, with no Jordan Love. So Packers have a good defense, I get it, but no excuse to be that careless with the ball, throwing a bunch of interceptions like that.
I agree.
I think against a Bears defense that
defense is good,
has been good, but allowed points.
but their offense is atrocious.
Their offensive line they allowed 9 sacks last week alone.
A little bit of that's on Caleb Williams.
A little bit of it is. He's also been careless with the football. Neither one of these quarterbacks has done great so far. Richardson's got 3 touchdowns through the air. I have the Colts winning. I'm not going to take any spreads or over-unders or anything because I think it's going to be a tougher game. I think the -1 is very indicative of how this game's going to go. Regardless of Caleb Williams' current ability, it's not going to be an easy game for the Colts, but I have them winning.
I agree. I think it's going to be an ugly slugfest, low scoring.
I could see it being like the Packers, 16-10.
Yeah, I think both teams under 20
score
points
like that.
But I got the Colts. Give me the Colts.
Let's do it. Eagles at Saints. So Saints are, I'd argue, the #1 team in the NFL right now.
If you're just looking at a 2-week snapshot, yes.
Right. But they're the only team that's clicked as well as they have. They've made very few errors. They've performed on defense. They've gotten interceptions. They're top 5 in almost every category that there is. And defensively. They've forced sacks. They've forced turnovers.
They've been playing great. And they're 2-0, and they're hosting the 1-1 Eagles, who
I only have to question, can they continue? And I'm not trying to be
everybody
an
knows that.
asshole about that, but it's like nobody expected them to come in.
Well, the one thing that
like
gives
this.
me confidence is Dennis Allen, the head coach of the Saints. They asked him about it in the press conference. He said, that means nothing. That just means we can't go worse than 2-15 this year. So at least it sounds like they have the right mentality where it's like, we didn't prove anything.
As underdogs.
We didn't prove anything. We didn't do shit. And they're hosting the Eagles, who, I mean, for the past, if you look at the middle of last year, the Eagles look like they're going to be one of the best teams in the NFL for years.
I think they're 2-6 in their last 8.
Since the end of the second half of last year, and since then they have just. I don't know what's happened. It's like Jalen Hurts and the offense just lost their groove.
It's like all they have is the tush push now.
Yeah, I don't
Weirdly enough,
understand
they have a
it.
5-yard pass, a decent run game, and then the 4th and 2 is every single time just go for it because we have the tush push.
I don't understand it. I don't know what's happened with him. I think it's more to do with coaching Sirianni, who I don't like that much.
They deserve that loss because they blew it last week against the Falcons.
They did.
Kirk Cousins, he's playing well from coming back from an ACL injury at his age. He's playing game management Kirk Cousins like he will for the rest of his career. But he did everything he needed to do.
That was a
win
winnable
that
game for the Eagles.
Yeah, exactly.
But
And
the Saints
Eagles
in
just
this
didn't.
one are 3-point favorites. I think the Saints get the win. I think they continue rolling. I don't think they hit I don't want to say reality check because I think they're actually good. But I think they continue riding high this week.
Barkley's been a good addition for the Eagles, though.
Yeah, except for his drop pass, but yes.
That would have won the game. Yeah.
But I blame more Nick Sirianni for his game management. But anyway,
3 interceptions by Hurts. Do the Saints get another interception this week?
I believe they do. I think the Saints roll again. Give me the Saints.
+1 INT for Christian. All right. I agree with the Saints. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Shaheed's going to catch another 40-yard pass this week, since we're talking good things about the Saints. And I think the Saints are going to win. I think the Eagles aren't clicking, and it's obvious. While they are holding up on defense pretty well, they're not letting a bunch of crazy scores go through. They are being beaten more often than not in their past 10 games. And they haven't shown any difference so far this season.
All right, let's move on to the next one. 2-0 Texans going to the surprising 2-0 Minnesota Vikings led by Sam Darnold. Vikings are 2.5-point dogs at home. Did we learn nothing from last week against the 49ers? The Vikings beat the 49ers at home 23-17. Impressive win. Sam Darnold looks like a new quarterback. Looks like
Very
deserving
poised.
of a top 5 pick from I don't even know how long ago it was.
He's like the number 2 quarterback. If you take the 2-week snapshot once again, he's like the number 3 quarterback in the league.
And they're taking on the Texans, who a lot of expectations this year. They're 2-0 to start the season, so 2 wins. Neither one of them are the most pretty wins, but hey, in the NFL, it's just about getting wins.
Right.
Wins over the Colts, 2 points, 6 points over the Chicago Bears. But yeah, I think this is a very interesting game to look at because I still think. If you look at the line, it's still
Houston for a 2, -2.
I think it's still and they're in Minnesota.
Yep.
It's still kind of looking at it as a preseason snapshot almost, not taking into account how they're pretty much banking on the Vikings being frauds.
Right. And Joe Mixon, 39 carries, 184
And
yards.
he's out for this game.
He's out. C.J. Stroud, he's thrown 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. So, yeah, he's gotten the ball to Nico Collins. He's gotten the ball to
Nico Collins is
Stephon
a
Diggs
star,
as
yeah.
well. But that was all pretty much in one game. Diggs scored twice, Collins scored once. That's all of C.J. Stroud's passing touchdowns.
Well, they've only played 2 games, Alex.
I know, but what I'm saying is he's already gone a game with none. So
yeah, but
for a good
Patrick Mahomes did too, and look
right,
what happened.
a good team like the Vikings, can they put it together again? I don't think they're complete frauds. Maybe that's why the line's so close. I have the Vikings winning.
I do too. I think I'm right about the Vikings. I think it's going to be a close game, but give me the home team who's on a roll.
Next is which one?
We got Sunday night football. Chiefs in Atlanta to take on the Falcons.
Weird game, weird line. Everything's weird about football right now.
Chiefs 2-0, 3.5-point favorites on the road, minus 175 I got.
Very low line for the Chiefs, money line. Minus 175.
Yeah, but they're on the road taking on the Falcons. It's the NFL.
I like it. I'm saying it's good. It's not minus 300.
Chiefs coming off of a very close, they do what the Chiefs did, win it late against the Bengals at home. Falcons did the same thing. The Eagles kind of gifted them a win, but you got to give the Falcons credit for being in position and taking advantage. Falcons 1-1. Kirk Cousins, jury's still out to see how he's fitting in Atlanta. One bad game against the Steelers.
I would say 2 meh games.
2 man games.
But
can he do it against the Chiefs? The Chiefs' defense looks pretty good this year.
I think knock the rust off. I think as the season progresses, Kirk Cousins is going to get more confidence. He already showed a little bit more confidence last week over the first. I think all this year is going to be a lot.
Although they won last week, Kirk Cousins is also known as not being able to win primetime games, and this is a primetime game.
Patty Mahomes has a surprising 3 interceptions already this year.
I'm not worried about it at all.
No. It's just cool that people are picking him off. He's not just able to throw these crazy, ridiculous passes.
But yeah, as much as we're talking about it, give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, they're going to lose it. They're not the Chiefs. The Falcons are going to lose at home.
Chiefs winning.
Chiefs winning.
Let's move on. Last game. One of two Monday Night Football games, but it's the only one we're going to cover.
Yay.
0-2 Jaguars at the 2-0 Bills. Jaguars, if you go back to last year, on a 7-game losing streak. What's happened to Trevor Lawrence, we don't know. They lost last week to the Browns. Bills look good. They do what the Bills do. They're starting off hot this year, 2-0.
Winning ugly games early.
Well, they dominated last week. It wasn't really ugly.
Oh, I was talking about week 1, sorry.
The only thing ugly last week was Tua with the crazy
Gang sign, CTE, or
shout
whatever you
out
want to call it. Ouch. Hamlin,
Chris Tua.
shout out Hamlin. He's the one who made that tackle.
It was crazy.
So Hamlin died and is now a murderer.
But Bills, 5-point favorites at home.
And they deserve that.
They deserve it. Prime time in Buffalo. I think the trends continue. Bills rolling, Jaguars tumbling. I think Doug Peterson is early favorite to be one of the first coaches fired this year.
Yeah.
Especially going back to how they ended last year.
Especially
they started last year 8-3.
I was gonna say starting like with Lawrence's beginning, it was great, and then it seems like Doug Peterson is single-handedly ruining it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I don't love it, but it's just funny to watch. It's
you're
not a team I care about.
Fan, you'd love
it. Yeah, it's not a team I care about, so it's just funny to see. But yeah, give me the Bills. Give me the Bills all day. Bills roll.
I think Bills roll, and I think Jared Cook's a good anytime touchdown candidate. He's gotten 3 already this season.
All right, so you ready to move on to our bets, Alex? Our bets this week?
Let's recap all the football picks.
All right, I'll go through mine. You go through yours.
Yeah.
Give me Nebraska over Illinois. Give me USC over Michigan. Oklahoma State over Utah. Tennessee over Oklahoma. LSU over UCLA. The Colts over the Bears. Saints over the Eagles. Vikings over the Texans. Falcons losing to the Chiefs.
You almost messed that up.
I almost messed it up. And the Bills dominating the Jaguars.
I have Nebraska over Illinois, USC over Michigan. I've got Oklahoma State over Utah, Tennessee over Oklahoma, LSU over UCLA, Colts over the Bears, the Saints over the Eagles, the Vikings over the Texans, and the Chiefs over the Falcons. I messed it up too. And the Bills over the Jags. So that's 10. We have the exact same picks. I'll take that. Ride together, die together. We'll take it. Let's wrap up tonight with
our
the bets.
So I got 2 units on everything, Alex. I got 2 college football, 3 NFL. I'll just run through all 5 of mine. You run through all 5 of yours.
Sounds good.
First bet is going to be Tennessee minus 7 at minus 115 odds.
I like that.
It's Tennessee over Oklahoma. The next one is going to be Oklahoma State money line at plus 110. Next one is going to be Saints minus 3 at minus 110 odds. Then I'm going to have the Vikings money line at plus 115. And then I'm going to have the Chiefs money line at minus 175.
Well, seeing as I'm riding with all the same picks as you this week, I have to say good luck. My first one is Tennessee minus 265, Nebraska minus 315, Bills minus 235, the Colts minus 122, and the Chiefs minus 172. All 2 units, all the way. Fade me if you hate them, I don't know. I'm going to do better this week, I promise you that.
So that wraps up episode 60. Check us out next week, episode 61. We got UFC Paris. Benoit Saint Denis returns.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one.
We got college football. We got NFL. We'll have a new top 5. So, yeah, check us out.
Yep, do all those things. Like, subscribe. Peace.